Thanks.
And thanks to you at home for joining us this hour. Happy Friday. Really happy to have you here. There is a pattern in the news cycle when Donald Trump is president. It was true in the first term. Apparently, it's going to be true in the second term, too. And I don't want to read too much into what we know about him, like, as a human, but it would appear that he is a guy who stays up late and sleeps late. You'll notice there aren't a lot of morning events that happen at the White House while he's president. Given that, as far as he's concerned, the government is basically just him, the fact that he's a late night, late sleeper guy in the first term, and it appears now in the second term again, creates a news cadence in which often there isn't really anything new in national politics or in national news coming out of Washington in the morning papers that wasn't there from the night before, because in the morning, the king is snoozling. So nothing happens early in the day. But then he ultimately, wakes up and starts lumbering around and wrecking stuff. And so we have this news cadence when Trump is president, where the news starts to pick up each day just in the mid-afternoon. And then by nighttime, it's going fully nuts. That was what was true in the first term. It seems to be following that same cadence in the second term. And just as the news follows those rhythms over the course of the day while Trump is president, it also sort of holds as well for the week. In general, what we experienced in Trump's first term was that stuff goes more nuts on Fridays than it does on Mondays, because I guess he gets momentum or whatever. That appears to be happening in this second term as well. All that said, it means it's particularly good to have you here this Friday night and every Friday night, because by Friday night, stuff is generally going great guns, and tonight is no exception. So we got a lot to get to tonight. A big story on Social Security that I really think is very important and really want to talk with you about. But we got a bunch of updates to do on stuff that has been developing over the course of the day. First of all, a big update on a story that broke last night while we were on the air. It broke while I was talking to Tim Walz on the air. We got a live reaction from him here on it during the show. This was the New York Times report, this insane story late last night, that the Trump administration was planning this morning, Friday morning, to give Trump's top campaign donor the U.S. military's detailed, highly classified operational plans that we as a country would follow if we ever went to war with China. Now, Elon Musk, the president's top campaign donor, is, of course, deeply involved with the Chinese government. He has multi-billion-dollar outstanding loans with China. He, not that long ago, wrote a pro-China essay for the Chinese government's censorship agency. The majority of Tesla cars now are manufactured in China. That is where he has his largest factory, and he built that factory with direct involvement from the Chinese government. So, yeah, I mean, in case it's not super obvious what the problem would be here in him getting our war plans for going to war with China, the New York Times last night, in this shocking report that they were going to read him in on those very highly classified plans, they kind of spelled it out in even more simple terms than you might expect from a regular newspaper on a regular story. They spelled it out basically in crayon. They made it so painfully simple what was wrong with this plan that maybe the White House even couldn't fail to understand it. This is what the Times said, quote, "It was unclear what the impetus was for providing Mr. Musk such a sensitive briefing. He is not in the military chain of command, nor is he an official advisor to Trump on military matters involving China. Pentagon war plans, known in military jargon as O plans or operational plans, are among the military's most closely guarded secrets." And here's where they switched to crayon. If a foreign country was to learn how the U.S. planned to fight a war against them, that country could reinforce its defenses and address its weaknesses, making U.S. war plans far less likely to succeed against that foreign adversary. If you have a war plan with a foreign country, don't show that plan to the foreign country just in case you ever have to go to war with them, because it'll mean your war plan won't work. get it? Do you guys get it? You want me to say it more slowly? I mean, the Times might as well have put it in all caps on a single page with a picture menu, right? Elon Musk is arguably more thoroughly and uncritically in bed with the Chinese government than any other business person who calls him or herself an American. But as of last night, according to the New York Times, Donald Trump was planning on giving him America's most detailed military plans on how exactly we would wage war against China if we ever had to, despite his deep involvement with the Chinese government. Gah! That Times report came out last night while we were on the air. By this morning, nope. Wall Street Journal headline, Trump says Elon Musk won't get briefing on Pentagon's China war plans. Yeah, quick reversal on that. And I think there are two things to see in that reversal. Number one, hey, journalism, neat. When journalists find out something is happening in the government and that thing is plainly indefensible, sometimes that makes the government stop trying to do that thing. That's why it's a good thing to have journalism. So we, the people, can find out about bad things, and maybe that stops some of those bad things in their tracks. But secondly, given his track record, I don't tend to believe things the president says just because he says them. But in this case, I'm a little bit tempted to believe him, or at least to consider the possibility that he might have been telling the truth when he told reporters this morning, or today, that he didn't know this so-called briefing on the China war plans for Elon Musk was happening. He didn't know about it. He just heard about it in the New York Times. He told reporters today that once he heard about it because of the Times reporting, he, quote, contacted White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to ask them, hey, what's this briefing that you guys are doing for Elon? Now, is he telling the truth there? I don't know, but pick your poison. Either the president ordered the Pentagon to give away the most highly sensitive and valuable national security secrets we most desperately want to keep away from China. He either ordered that we give away those secrets to his top campaign donor, who is very close to the Chinese government, or the president did not order that, which means his top campaign donor arranged that for himself and almost got it, and would have gotten it until the New York Times spilled the beans, which stopped it. Either way, do you feel like our national security is in steady hands? Did you vote for Donald Trump because he was going to be tough on China? How are we doing? Today was another bad day in court for the Trump administration, specifically on their effort to try to kick all transgender service members out of the U.S. military. The federal judge overseeing a challenge to that ban in Washington today just tore the bark off the Trump administration lawyer who's been trying to defend what Trump is doing there. That judge today ordered that the plaintiff service members who've been put on administrative leave by Trump, the judge ordered today that they must all be taken off administrative leave and reinstated by 5 p.m. Eastern time tonight. The judge also, in court, in open court, just excoriated the Trump administration lawyer effectively for lying about what the Defense Department has been doing in this case. The judge said, quote, "The court is not going to be gaslit. The Secretary of Defense called it a transgender ban. This idea that you can just come in here and pretend, or have us pretend, that what's happening is not actually what's happening is totally unacceptable. Everyone knows what this ban is intended to do. Everyone knows." The judge said, again, this is all in open court. The judge said, quote, "I am not going to abide by government officials saying one thing to the public, saying what they really mean to the public, and coming in here to the court and telling me something different like I'm an idiot. I am not an idiot." So that happened today. Also, we've now, just in the last few days, seen some of our closest friends and allies issue travel warnings, advising their citizens to think twice about traveling to the United States because of new risks associated with traveling here. These are travel warnings against coming to the United States.